Gotcha. Thank you.
It was mostly Emory's people, you know, the social justice team for the most part.
Says live in 2 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start it now, Vic. So the main thing is I want to make sure we've got that we're okay. Yeah, this is
recording in progress.
That's my recordings.
got it. All right.
I invited my Facebook. I put it on Facebook. So let me just go over there really quick to see if anybody asks any questions to start with.
Gotcha. All right. Trying to figure out why. What picture are you seeing? Are you?
I saw her, now I'm seeing you, I saw Bob.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm also getting some indications that. All right, so you've got sound and the picture looks okay? Okay, well, good. Stream status poor. All right. All right, well, we are also live on the live stream now. So, Bob, why don't you get us started off?
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the inaugural session of Hope Floats. This is a series of webinars that Epworth United Methodist Church will be hosting the second Saturday of each month, related to various topics in social justice. Our first session is going to be with Dr. Oh boy.
Dr. Michelle Williams.
Dr. Michelle Williams. Oh, and we are going to be discussing affordable housing and how that impacts the area in which we live, which is Sussex County, Delaware. So I will pass this on to Dr. Michelle Williams, and please, a round of applause.
Welcome.
All right, thanks. I will share my screen. It's always really challenging to have a 20-minute presentation and really give you guys a lot of meat to chew on. And then we'll have a 10-minute question and answer, which I love. And so I'm just going to go and start right away. So again, I am so excited about being not only on your inaugural event, but for talking about this very, 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 very important topic. So I'm glad that you mentioned about social injustice. And it's interesting because this was a book that was written several years ago. And really the housing crisis is about unaffordability, inequality, and poor quality, and how it impacts the community. It's a whole system. And that's why I always look at things holistically, because it's not just one thing called housing. So my name really is Dr. Tiny. And so that's probably why you were confused about my name. So what I want to talk about is just these four topics. I won't spend a lot of time on how I came to be here, but how I came to be here is a rather creative path. And yes, I do want to talk about affordable housing, but I don't like to use that word because in people's mind, it means other things. You know, affordable means homelessness, or affordable means Section 8, or affordable means drug abuse. And that's why I don't like that word. Affordable, you know, and I know it's about money. But because it's been associated with all those other words, I don't like to use it. I like to use the word about attainable, meaning you can attain it and you can have it. And what is being done about the issue, and some opportunities and challenges that we have ahead of ourselves. So, like, no kidding, this is how I came to be here. Really quickly, I went to Duquesne, majored in pharmacy, went into the Air Force, got out of the Air Force, started a holistic health business, got called up after 9/11. And at this time, I was already doing real estate investing. And when I turned 50, I said to myself, you know, I have 50 more years to live. What am I going to be doing? And I had this bright idea that I was going to go back to school to get a PhD, knowing that it was not going to be a good return on investment, but it didn't matter. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. And my research dealt with where one lives matters, that your zip code should not dictate your health outcomes. And so right after I got retired from the Air Force, I moved back to Lewis, and now I have this PhD, and I have this retail experience, and I have real estate experience, but everything in my life is about health. How do I move that all around? So in April of 2019, my husband, Jay Kirby, and I went on a bike ride with the Fuller Center. And we went from Nashville to Natchez Trace, but along the way we stopped and fixed houses. So we're on our way home, and I said, geez, why don't we have one of these in Delaware? So I started to do all that work. And not 6 months later, my husband, Jay, yesterday, he was hit on Route 1 2 years ago yesterday. And then my mother-in-law died. And then my dad moved in with me because he was sick. And then he died. And then there was COVID. So all I had to do was think about is getting very clear, getting some guidance from God. Whatever he wanted me to do, I was going to do it. So what is mine to do? And if you want to know why I do what I do, because I'm supposed to. What is mine to do is help with affordable, attainable, sustainable housing. So that's why I do that. I talked about health, and this is a really busy slide, but basically when we talk about the social determinants of health, we have financial, physical, and emotional. And remember, it's a whole system about housing. Every single one of these, financial, physical, and emotional, touch some aspect of housing. And you guys can have a copy of these slides, so I'm just going to kind of buzz through them. But they're everything that I do. Every policy I think about is how does it affect health? So let me go, now I'm going to transition into Delaware and then Sussex County and tell you what's going on. So this first slide was through an AARP research study, and all these are referenced at the bottom, so you can look them up on your own. When I do these presentations, I don't want you to think that all of this is Michelle's bright ideas, because these are hard and true statistics done by someone else. So you can see the national house averages, and it's the purple one. They're back on the rise. Of course, this was right after the recession. But look at the rents. The rents keep on going up, but the income keeps staying the same. Big gap there. Now let's move it to Delaware. So minimum wage in Delaware right now is $9.25. The average renter wage needs to be $18.11. And the average wage that in order just to get housing in general is $22.52. You can see the gap, right? So the bottom line is that the majority of these folks are spending more than 50% on their income just on housing. Now think about, as we go along, that where's the majority of our seasonal jobs and our minimum wage jobs? They're on the coast for businesses. And where's the less expensive housing? It's on the west. So what are these folks doing? They're driving. And now you want to know why we're complaining about traffic? Okay. So let's see. Interestingly enough, the least expensive house wage was in Sussex County, but I really think that that's going to change. This data is from 2021, January, February timeframe. So it's not old data. All right. So now let's move to more Delaware stuff. So basically, here's just your snapshot. And these are the key facts. 25% of those that need rents are extremely low income. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. And the maximum for a 4-person house to be extremely low income is $26,000. The annual income to be able to afford a 2-bedroom rental, according to HUD, is just shy of $47,000. So you can see, start to, it doesn't take a math genius to do some math here and subtraction. And 72% of these folks are extremely cost burdened, meaning that their housing plus utilities plus travel is sometimes 50, 60, 70%. So how do they eat? How do they, feed their kids? How do they buy school clothes for their kids? How do they, if their car breaks down, they're SOL. What about if the kid needs it has to go to the dentist and there's no health insurance? Anyway, I can go on and on and on. So you can see that the majority of these extremely low income are in the labor force. And you can see that seniors and single moms, single caretakers are the other big chunk, and then the disabled. So you can see that these are numbers, 50%, the 61% of Delawareans spend more than at least 50% of their average median income on rents. When you get to, and 80% of them, 101 people, spend more than 80%. And then, of course, here's your people that are at 100% of their average AMI. Now, just can you imagine having to take your whole paycheck and put it just towards housing? So, and then you could see the extremely low income. You could see how they're cost burdened and they're severely cost burdened. This is a huge chunk of people. Basically, Delaware has a shortage, sorry about that, of 19,000 homes for extremely low income renters. That's more than 53,000 households that are having that problem. And overall, there's not only a need to expand housing and the supply of housing, but it needs to be affordable, attainable, sustainable. And it's the balance of the housing that's going to solve this problem. So this is on ownership. I just talked about rental, but I just wanted to compare this. These are prices of houses compared to others in the nation. So, and the price change. So we're in Sussex County. So just think about the growth that we've had in Sussex alone. And then you have healthcare. Then you have the tourist industry. Then you have all these people that come to live here. And where's the services? And who's going to work in those services that the people that are living here need? Okay, so that's why I kind of show you the distinction here. In the United States, the blue was between 2019, February 19 to February 20. And the red is from 20 to 21 February. Look at and it doesn't matter what area you look in, there's a huge price jump across the country. So this issue that we're talking about is all over the country. That's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing that I see is I study across the country about what is working, where it's working, and why did it work, and how did it work. So I'm always looking for that kind of information. But this is astonishing when you can see just in 1 year a price jump. Here's the home ownership rate for Delaware. We're back to Delaware now. You can see that, you know, it's up and down and up and down, but the home ownership in Delaware is pretty good. It's almost 78%. But who buys those houses? Currently there's a decreasing stock available, and the stock that is available is not affordable for most Delawareans. What's interesting is I updated these slides today, and the average price of a house a year ago, this time, was $290,000. This is across the state. This July, $335,000 in 1 year. Isn't that astonishing? Anyway, the active inventory is 41%, and it's no wonder why in July the days on market was just 18 days. That's amazing. You barely had it on the MLS. So anyway, for a full-time worker to keep within the standard of 30% of their income to avoid being cost burdened, they would have to make at least $96,000 exclusive of utilities or travel. And they have to have a wage of $47. That's double what the Delaware range is, just to be able to buy a house. I'll let that sit in for a few. So this is a great study. It's if you want to know all about Sussex County specifically, I leave the link in there. This was a study that was commissioned by our Sussex County folks, and it was released in November of 2019. So, 2 years old, but the data is pretty stable. And this is the numbers that I was kind of telling you about. This is based on HUD. 30% of AMI are considered extremely low income. That means that they spend 70% on their housing. And you could see that this is their income. One person, 15,000. What job is that? That's below minimum wage. A 4-person, extremely low income, 26,000. I mean, you could see that even 4 people, a family of 4, they'd still have to bring in $72,000. Now think about who we're talking about. Who's our market? Nurses, some CNAs. Think about the nursing care facilities and who they hired. They're not all nurses. When I had my hips redone, I stayed at a nursing facility because I was single at the time. And it was amazing to hear these gals and guys that work so hard, and they're working 2 jobs because they're at minimum or below, and they're just working 2 jobs, and they work so hard. And then their rents are so high. It's just crazy. Anyway, so you can just kind of understand that here's the criteria: extremely low, very low, and low, and the incomes that they need to have. And these are income limits by HUD. Now the home study also gave you the information about the types of the new units that are needed in Sussex County, and you can read this on your own. But between 2020 to 2050, we're going to need about 26,000 new houses just to house the people that, one, are here, and two, that intend, based on our growth, to live here. So when I think of this, I'm just going to stay on this one column, okay? How are we going to build 10,000 units in 10 years when, and it has to be affordable. Last year, or over the course of the previous 10 years, we were averaging only a growth rate. Well, I'm not even going to throw any of that out because it was an anomaly with COVID and with the recession. So it's, well, anyway. So again, when we look up here and we look at the units that have to be affordable for those people with their prices, we're still going to need 10,290 units in the next 10 years to be able to support who lives here and works here and plays here and goes to school here. So this is the same slide. Okay. So here's your rents, your mortgage, and this is the incomes that people need to be able to live. So a single person would have to, so they have to do, when you measure it, it's 3.5 times your gross income, which is the maximum you can afford. So if you're a single person, how many of these people are making $53,000 a year? Again, restaurant workers, people that work in a laundromat, the CNAs. I mean, they're just so real to me because what really kind of shocked me when I realized they're working 2 and 3 jobs and they can never get ahead. There's just no financial way. So anyway, that's what so before I transition from here, you can look all that up, but the bottom line is that we don't have the housing inventory, not only for ownership, but rentals, that is within their budget, and that it's quality, and that it's safe, and it's healthy, and that they live in dignity. I want to pause here to just differentiate. There's a distinction between shelterless and affordable, attainable, sustainable housing. Okay. Shelterless or rooflessness means that people don't have a job, they don't have a place to live, they're couch surfing, etc. The workforce housing, attainable, sustainable, affordable, are people with incomes. And I got to make the distinction, because what I'm focused on right here, right now, is this side over here for people that have an income. Because I believe if you solve the income problem with housing, that'll help with housing insecurity so that folks don't move to the other side in the homelessness. Okay. It's not that I don't care about both sides. It's just that I had to focus on one, and where could I make the most impact? What is mine to do? So that's why I focus on that. So moving on to what is being done about this issue. This home study was really thorough, and it came up with a boatload of recommendations. And what the county is doing is that they're looking at those recommendations and they're going through and seeing how they can meet the recommendations and who in the community can help with X, Y, or Z of the recommendations. And the first thing that they did was, which was a recommendation, and it's what I call low-hanging fruit. It's a micro win in my brain. Starting in fiscal year 22, they have put money aside for a county housing trust fund. And what that does is it helps build or fix or rent anything that this trust fund sees fit on how to allocate this money. The beautiful thing is that it's a line item for each year and they don't have to go back and grovel to add it back to the budget. So it's in there for good. Some of the other studies that talk about what we need to do is the analysis of impediments. And they identified very similar to what the home study did. There's more affordable housing in areas that have low or moderate income people. Racial or ethnic minorities are experiencing higher rates of housing problems. And again, look at the healthy housing, lack of complete kitchen facilities, lack of adequate plumbing. These are all health issues, overcrowding and cost burdened. One area that Delaware has made a good impact is in the area of people with disabilities, but there's still a need for more housing for them. And the data on that came from the Delaware State Fair Housing Consortium. And then I belong to, which I think is probably the biggest impact that we're making right now, is a below the radar ad hoc kind of we don't get paid for it. It's just people like me that have come together in the Sussex Housing Group to engage our public officials, our elected officials, policymakers, anybody who has to do in this industry called housing. We get together once a month, and then there's subcommittees. And of course, I'm the chair of the data subcommittee because we call ourselves data dwellers, because everything that we do, we want to do it based on data, not on bright ideas or not on suppositions. So the Sussex Housing Groups looks at how can we make the most impact to the most number of people. And so that is one area, and starting about 8 months ago, we really upped our game. So I'm really excited about being part of that. So here's some big solutions. And I'm going to start up here with the home study. What they talked about was affordable strategies, modifying zoning codes, meaning density, how many people you can fit in an area. We already established the trust fund, and now it's putting together the rules of how to deliver that money and preserve the existing affordable housing, because that's getting old now. And some of the existing houses are manufactured homes. They don't have a life of 1 million years. And then really identify the lack of manufactured modular small homes. Low or no cost, these are all about policy. So when I think about when I said my PhD has no return on investment, it has a human investment return. So I'm so happy that I did that. So anyway, all these, they're no or low cost. And that's us as the community can do that. And then of course, where my heart lies is go tiny and go small. And there's a whole realm of minimalism and tiny houses and van life, et cetera, et cetera. But there's two areas that I want to mention is the accessory dwelling units, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, and the missing middle of housing. So what is that? So here's the missing middle of housing. You've got your regular single detached, which we either all of us on this call probably live in. I live in a condo, which is over here. And we don't have anything in here. And that's the missing middle. And this is where you can get your affordability, small scale development. And that's something we're not doing effectively here. So when I use my real estate skills, I'm a small scale developer. And I want to be able to address some of these other areas, these other missing middle, diverse, innovative things that we're not having right here. And that's where it goes to zoning policies. Okay. Now, accessory dwelling units, here's several of them. They're when you have a house and you can rent out part of your property, whether it's in your house, in your garage, or with a tiny house on wheels or a tiny house on foundation in your backyard. I'm not talking mobile homes, and I'm not talking campers manufactured. I'm talking tiny houses. And if we have time, I'll show you some really cool pictures. But anyway, you're going to get the slides anyway. So converted garages, detached ADUs. Now think about people that own an acre of land and they have a 1,500 square foot house on it. Wow, that's an opportunity for somebody to be living in their backyard and pay rent to the person who lives in the house, or vice versa. The person living in the big house might want to live in the small house and rent out their big house. But think about all the people in foreclosure or forbearance, and they just need a little bump up to make that mortgage payment. These tiny these accessory dwelling units can bring in anywhere from $300 to $600 a month. So that in itself could be one solution. And again, it's not just one solution and one thing fits all. It's a holistic approach. But I think accessory dwelling units make a big chunk. So what are some opportunities that we have? And one of my goals is, of course, to have tiny houses to be affordable workforce and ultimately used in some form for the unsheltered. What does that take? My brain says it takes policy changes. And that's the hardest part. Because when I talk to people and they'll say, oh, I think tiny houses are so cute. I would love to sell my big house just to be able to afford no mortgage or hardly a mortgage and live in a tiny house, but it's illegal. And it is, according to zoning. And most people don't know how to navigate the bureaucracy of policy. Well, after 30 years in the Air Force, I think I got that one, might have that one down. And my PhD did teach me one or two things about policy. So I've really been focused on building codes. I sit on a national committee that looks at standards on safe building codes for tinies. And I've been working on zoning and land issues with the planning and zoning committees, not only for the county, but for other municipalities, because not everybody has the same rules. For instance, in Sussex County, you can have a house and the smallest it could be is 340 square feet. Go to Delmar, the smallest house you can have in Delmar is 1,100 square feet. That's not tiny. And so those are my two really big buckets, and they're what I consider the hard things. Then you have all down here is just some other things that we can do, existing programs and organizations that we tap into. And that's where I started talking about the Sussex Housing Group, because that's an ad hoc. We are joined together and there's no like, oh, I'm not going to be with you because I want that grant. And we don't do any of that. It's how can we solve this issue of housing? And then, of course, there's all these financial programs that are out there that we may not be taking advantage of, and they're government, state, county, the whole works. All right, so this is the steps that were already taken, and they focus on what I've done. When I came back from the Fuller Center, the Fuller Center for Housing bike ride, and I knew I wanted to create one of those in Delaware, I started going to county council and doing my 3-minute talks every week. And I was educating them on tiny houses or micro apartments or townhouses and how that could be used as a possibility to make a chunk in this and make a difference. So then I wanted to engage the community. So I started a Facebook group, and then lo and behold, like within a month, I had 1,000 people on this. So I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of people in this community that want to live smaller because it makes sense for them. It's their health, the 3 aspects of their health in housing. I did a survey, and I have the link on it, about people that are willing to participate in this this effort. It could be from an architect who's retired. I had somebody on there that said, I'll make the curtains for the tiny houses, and it's everything in between. It's, I want to dig, I want to build a roof. It's everybody who seriously wants to commit to doing something. And then I still continue to network with great folks like you. Anybody who wants to talk about housing, sign me up. I'll come and talk to you. And I can pinpoint it. I could talk for an hour. I could talk for a day. So, but I like to talk about solutions. And that's where, when I said I love questions, I was serious. So what else have I done? I've looked at what are the biggest pain points, and I talked about things that the community has already said that they wanted in their comprehensive plan, their transportation initiatives, etc. When I met with you guys from Epworth, like I think it was July, it was July, I talked about the Fuller Center for Housing, and lo and behold, since that time, I have incorporated, I've applied for my 501c3 status, and I'm growing my board of directors. So I held off announcing that because I thought Bob was going to have a follow-up meeting on Tuesday, but you guys are right off the press on that one. And with that, and I put their little mission statement in here because they are faith-based, but I had such an amazing experience with them and saw how the community decides. This is why I like Fuller, different than Habitat, although the founder of both organizations was Millard and Linda Fuller. Habitat has rules that they have to follow: 3-bedroom, 2 baths, 1,500 square feet. It has to be built in a certain area, et cetera, et cetera. Although they're starting slowly to get to what the community needs, it's still a bureaucracy. Whereas the Fuller Center, their partnerships with their states or their counties or whatever, and ours is called the Fuller Center for Housing in Delaware, starting of course in Sussex, yay. They allow you to do what the community wants to do. So if the community wanted townhouses, if the community wanted to have micro apartments, if they wanted to have a tiny village, if they wanted to have a 20-acre tiny village, it's up to the community. And that's where the community engagement comes in. I also established another not-for-profit, and it's called COBA. And the mission is to connect, organize, build, and advance. And it's a full service housing consortium that looks at what's causing problems and solving them within the confines of who do we connect with, how do we organize, what do we build, and how do we advance our cause. And I like that. I needed to start that, and it was actually advised to me by another not-for-profit organization, NCAL, which said, hey, if you get your own not-for-profit, you'll be able to get grants. So it's business to business. So think about tiny houses and getting a donation from Home Depot. Yay. Okay. The other thing is, when we talk about these kind of things and we talk about money, it scares people. Like, where are we going to get the money? Where are we going to get the money? And in my brain, the hardest thing is the policy. The easy thing is the money. It's knowing how to get the money. That's the challenge. So I've been thinking about this, and I've actually taken a lot of steps for it, and I'm not going to talk about it too much. I have established a process for crowdsourcing and equity crowdfunding, which the model that I have allows the community to invest in workforce housing communities, attainable housing communities, such that they may not have the NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And then I'm sure you know what an opportunity zone is. We have 3 in Sussex County: Georgetown, Seaford, and Milford. No, I'm sorry, Georgetown, Seaford, and Milford. And they're areas that the governor has selected for improving. It's an opportunity for improvement. So what if we created communities that have jobs associated with them? So that's a whole nother conversation. And then what I've been working on just the past week is a proof of concept and applying for an EDGE grant to get that proof of concept. And I have some land, and my proof of concept is to build a tiny house community to show how it is profitable and how it's not a drain on the council or the county, and how it actually generates funds. We worked with Berica to pick out our designs. And here's just my strategies. I put those down there. I work from easiest to hardest. And I always think, well, if I'm working on zoning codes, that's a big chunk and it takes a lot of time. But what's a micro win I can have? And just learning about the accessory dwelling units, which, by the way, are legal in Sussex County. If you're in the Sussex County, I'm still finding out about the other municipalities, but that was a huge micro win when I found that, because that opens it up to people that thought they couldn't do that to their garage or backyard. And I always want to look at what is going to be a health factor, not only for us as workers and live and where we live, but also about the dignity of the person who's been struggling with housing, because it's not an easy topic to talk about. Let's see. All right. So if you want, and I'm kind of winding down right now. So I just put these 3 links in there. If you're interested in the Facebook group, if you want to learn more about me, which, you know, doesn't really matter, and the survey, if you wanted to participate in that. And I gave you, this is where my dissertation is, and I gave you some other links that are quick and easy. Oh, and that's it. So I'm going to open up for questions, which I hope you guys have. And then if we have time, I will show you some really cool tiny house slides. So what you got for me, Reverend Bo, Pastor Bo?
Gonna unmute myself here. Well,
right.
Thank you very much. I'll never forget the meeting we had in July, meeting you for the first time, and the passion, the energy, the enthusiasm, and the smarts that you bring. And I love that you're continuing to meet with the county council. So, you know, first of all, I just want to say thank you. For the good work that you're doing. And I've been putting some of the links that I have up on the chat, but you'll be sending us this PowerPoint, and then we'll have some of these links available later. So if you're watching tonight, I appreciate you being a part of it. And if you're watching later, then you'll probably be able to find these links in the description of, I think it's probably where I'll put them for the video, for the live stream. So I've got the chat open for several folks who are with us tonight. One thing that kind of stood out in my mind is when we met in July, there was a group that was looking to put a shelter in the old Troop 6 building. And we're looking to sort of rent that from the county for no rent or something like that. And then that apparently sort of fell through. Am I right on that we weren't able to use that space?
Yeah, so what I understand from that, and the last time I talked about it was about 2 weeks ago, the Troop 7 was having their quarterly get-together at Surf Bagel. And I just happened to be there meeting up with 2 realtor pals of mine that I haven't seen in 2 years. And we just went to Surf Bagel. I mean, this is how God works. I mean, it's just amazing. So we're sitting there and all these people from Troop 7 are there. So of course we're like, come on over, we have a question. And we asked the question, what are you doing? And one of the big guys, one of the guys in charge comes over and he's like, well, quite frankly, that building needs probably to be torn down because it costs more to rehab it because it's an office building. And when it's costly to move an office building into residential to begin with,
right?
But if you have a dilapidated building, I mean, the outside of the building looks wonderful. So they actually are on hold. They're not sure what they're doing with it.
Gotcha.
So I've talked to a few people, and I get, depending on what seat you're sitting in, some people will say, oh, we don't want the homeless. And this is where the NIMBYism comes in. And this is where we have to educate people that not all people without a shelter are drug abusers or whatever, their images. And we don't want them on Route 1, because if you think you got a lot of traffic on Route 1 now, what if somebody walks out in the middle of the street? How many people are going to be killed on Route 1? So, things like that I just hear. And it's interesting because in my mind, that piece, and in the back, even though it's like a 5-acre parcel, the majority of it is wetland. Now, if I look at that parcel, regardless of the wetland, and where the building is, and then they have all that grass, that would be a great tiny house community.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're on hold. They don't know what they're doing with it.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting. I moved here a year and a half ago with my wife Vicky from Camden, and there was a, I guess, famous or infamous tiny house movement surrounding a church that wanted to make their property, available for tiny houses, and that to support shelterless families and persons. And there was a huge groundswell of NIMBYism, I think you called it. With the sign, the yard signs and the letters of the editor and the the crowds going. And so it's a real, I guess, a lot of fear associated around some maybe misunderstandings about what that might involve.
And that was Port Hope. And Sue Harris was in charge. She was the spearheader. She's actually a very active member on our Facebook group. And what's really great about the Facebook group is it's a community, and people ask questions and post really cool things, but it has to be about something about housing and tiny houses, or something within that. It's not, they're selling their Avon or whatever.
Right.
It's none of that.
Right.
So Sue is very active on there. And when I look at that perspective, and I look at it because it happens across the country, and I say, how are we in Sussex going to be different? And how I believe we will have better success is because we're looking at a community of people that work, that need housing. So these are people with an income. They are people that already contribute to the community. And again, I'm not making a judgment on it. It's just that I want to have a real good, solid win out the gate. And that's why I'm really focused on the workforce.
Gotcha. Yeah, that could address some of those fears about what people look like. I also like how...
and but I've talked about NIMBYism. The Sussex Housing Group is going to start a YIMBYism campaign. And there's like several of them throughout the country. So we're going to model that. And it's really about getting the community educated and aware and alert and excited about yes in my backyard.
I really also like what you say about, the fact that, this is a holistic issue that involves, public transportation, recreation, lots of infrastructure kind of things. And that can be overwhelming, but it can also allow each one of us to do what you have done, to think about where is God calling me to focus, with my life, with the experiences that I have, the passion that I bring. And so there are lots of different areas of engagement that will work on, eating the elephant of, of an issue that's not just one thing. It's not just limited to, housing stock, as you say. There's just, available jobs. And, I mean, every time I ride to church, I see the signs that kind of line the the
Yeah.
fast food establishments, now hiring $13 an hour and thinking,
Yeah.
what in the world could you do with $13 an hour? I mean, that's a start, but it doesn't get you, it doesn't allow you to have shelter over your head unless you're doing
Yeah.
something, like you said, one of these accessory, dwelling units, perhaps. So there's some pieces there that, who knows, maybe employers in the area may be able to help underwrite and support.
Yeah. Yeah. Good idea. In fact, I met with Michelle Freeman. Now, they do big developments.
Mhm.
I do small and tiny developments. So our meeting of the mind was fascinating. And they underwrite a lot of things.
Mhm.
And she told me, well, I'm on tape. I don't want to say what she told me, but it was very positive and uplifting.
Super.
But again, coming together with people that you would not normally think, oh my gosh, developers, they're competition or whatever. They're greedy money mongers or whatever, you say about that. And when you're talking small scale development for large scale solutions, that's really what I want to focus on. But it's the holistic approach. And so I talk to people regardless of where they come from, what their background is. And it's amazing that people, even in the industry of real estate, are they're uneducated on small.
Right.
It just is like, who would ever want to live in a tiny house?
Right.
I mean, the statistics on that is outrageous. And I think AARP did another study on tiny houses and how many seniors want to live in tiny.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of blows the model. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. So I was, this is something I was thinking about as you were going through the slides, and you've kind of touched on it. And I think your discussion with Ms. Freeman kind of solidified my thinking. And in my mind, there's the houses themselves, whatever they're going to look like, but you need to put them somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And land, at least on this side of Sussex County, is terribly expensive and hard to find. But there's some large tracts that have, been offered for sale, and I think they're still for sale. Is there any incentives being discussed with the owners of those large tracts of land to carve out smaller pieces? To put this type of housing on?
Yeah. So those large tracts are not in my vision. And the reason being is you can do 12 houses on a half acre.
Right.
And that's where it goes to density. Yeah. So do people want, if you had 20 acres, so I told you I was writing the EDGE grant proposal. And I think in year 3, I have it proposed that I do a 20-acre parcel. But as a real estate investor, I usually try to stay in the area of off market and have the owner of the property more engaged in the process. Shoot, they might even want to be my partner and not sell me the land. They might want to partner in the initiative of workforce housing. Yeah. So I don't really talk about land acquisition on the big end of things, because I want to do my prototype on a small half acre, 1 acre, and really let that sink, because a lot of those large parcels and large land lots, they don't have any infrastructure. And that's where your money is. And, even though you can build a tiny house for, say, $20,000 if you do it yourself, $40,000 if a professional does it, you still have the issue of septic and well. And that's what is the chunk of change. So I have a property in Lincoln, and I'm putting some shipping container houses on there. I'm in the process of building them. And I had to do well and septic. And this is in Lincoln, which is the perfect area for somebody that works at the hospital there. I mean, it's like in biking distance.
Mm-hmm.
And on just septic and well alone, oh, and I had to have the electric put in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm still talking 22,000, and I don't even have a house yet.
Yep.
So that's where I think the county sometimes struggles with, and it was even said to me, yeah, we love tiny houses and we love the idea of different models, the missing middle, but what do we do about the infrastructure? So what I've been looking at is, where are there mobile home developments that are for sale? Because they already have the chunk of that
Mhm.
done. And there's one that I've got my eye on right now, and it's on market. It's not off market. I really like dealing with off market. And even when I did real estate, I always dealt with off market properties, because I think that homeowners get into a bind and they get overwhelmed. So if I could partner with them, fix their house and sell it later, and then, you know, anything that helps that person get out of the stress of their house and their, you know, say taxes, you know, I do that first. So that's how I've just been operating. And quite frankly, that I put that in the easy bucket, believe it or not. I put the policies in the hard bucket.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. You mentioned bikeable distance.
Yeah, that was my word.
Yeah,
I
well,
like
no,
it.
but I know that you've published a study that somebody did on the impact of bike trails to the community that they run through. A
Yeah.
positive impact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that anytime you, the studies show that anytime you build a bike trail or walking trail through a development, it increases the property value. Now, my thing is, if I could stay off of the traffic with riding my bike to do my errands, because most errands are within 5 miles, I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
So that's why I think about, so you think about, we don't have any public transport here. So if I have affordable housing in Seaford, but the gal works in Lewis, there's no way she's going to ride, 40 miles one way.
Yep.
And then back. There's no bus route. So, and then that's the other thing. When we talk about who are our partners, if DART isn't going to support us, then, oh, heck, why don't we build our own bus company and do it ourselves just for Sussex County? That's a whole adventure for somebody.
That's right.
So, and the other thing is, all of this, I'm always thinking, every single person I've talked to, or they're on my hire list, they're in Delaware.
Mhm.
And I want to keep Delaware's income here, as well as the Delawareans that work here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is our inaugural, and I really appreciate you helping us kick it off, Michelle. And like I said, your passion is infectious, and the example, quite frankly, of turning such extraordinary grief, I can't begin to imagine. Our hearts are with you on this second anniversary of your husband's death, and I just think it's an extraordinary tribute that you have brought to this journey of grief, that you have turned this into a blessing for so many other people, and just God bless you
Thank you
for that.
What is mine to do
For that.
And,
I loved how you said that. Yeah. And that's
it just comes, be still and know.
Yeah. I want to mention to everyone, whether you're watching tonight with us or subsequently, that this next meeting that the retired Reverend Bob Paulin, there's my dog in the background, has put together, has been rescheduled to Tuesday, the 21st of September at 10 a.m. Here at Epworth United Methodist Church. So that'll be an opportunity for us to get back together. We've got a working group here at the church that we've put together. And as I said, that's where many of us got to meet Dr. Williams the first time back in July. It feels so long ago. And I love hearing some of the wonderful things that have been going on in your life and catching back up. And so I think, as you said, you might be there as well. And so looking forward to seeing you again. And that'll be a great opportunity to meet Dr. Williams in person. Also, I've put some links up already to your Facebook group and website. And we'll have some more links available soon. But before we go, would love for you to show us some. I'm a bit of a tiny house aficionado myself, and so I'd love to see some of the.
You never asked.
Some of what you promised us. So we'll close with some of those pictures as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So when we talk about villages, people can't conceptualize them. So here's just some of them. This one's in North Carolina, so you can see how it's laid out. It's laid out similar to anything else. Now, what I like is just like a city is laid out in squares so that everything is walkable. This to me is kind of hard to get around. I'm not a cul-de-sac kind of gal, but anyway, you could see what the houses look like. This one is actually a tiny house on a foundation, or I suspect that it has wheels and they covered it up, but that's just what I suspect. This one's in Breckenridge. So this one is an upscale resort area, and they have them on wheels. This one is called a gooseneck because the truck goes over here. And I think this one actually has solar panels on it. And that's the other thing when we talk about innovation and solar and net zero. So imagine moving into a house and having no utility bill.
Wow.
So talk about affordable. That is, and Berica does that. So Berica is also coordinated with the other state agencies that are into that too. So really exciting. So here's Lake Dallas, just kind of spread out. You can see that they're small. This little parcel is, I think this one's like 0.75 acres, but it's all spread out. This one's really tiny. I think this one was 0.25. 130 to 130, so it's a complete square. You know, they put one in Atlanta, right in city limits. It's on 1/4 of an acre with 10 upscale, beautiful, amazing tinies. Just a diagram. So here's another one you could see from the street view what they look like and how pretty they are. You can have community gardens because we talk about food insecurity and food deserts. So you could solve a food desert by having your commercial buildings along with things that employ the people that live there, hair and nails, a bookstore, an accountant's office, getting daycare. So again, you could have a little shop there that has healthy fruits and vegetables. So here's another one. These are kind of tight together. And these are not, some of these, I think this one in particular is for the unsheltered. These are models that, and you could tell the difference a little bit. The sheltered ones, if they're a shelter, they don't have a kitchen. And so people share a community kitchen. And I don't know if I have the picture. Oh yeah. Okay. So Community First in Austin is probably the biggest one. I actually visited there and they did several different phases. So they're incremental development on that. And they are centered around people that don't have a home. And they have a community clubhouse that has a kitchen. And I mean, it is a community in itself. They have a bus that goes through as well as bikes to take people to their employment and to bring them back. So you don't even need a car. Wow. So, and here's what some of them look like. And you can go down there and you can rent them out for the night to see what they're like. Some of these are as small as 95 square feet. Wow. I mean, can you imagine? And I think the biggest one might be 350. Whoa, that's a real luxury. Yeah. Some of the other people that I've talked to are focused communities. This one's for veterans. And the Veteran Community Project, I think, is now up to 6 villages, all different parts of the country. And this is, they also have a community center. They also, the other thing about shelterless versus workforce is that the shelterless need more wraparound services that's not my expertise. So that's why I say that one's a little bit more difficult. Whereas you can see, here's the Veterans Center, and it has an on-site community center that supports what they need, whether it's veterans benefits or post-traumatic stress disorder solutions or whatever. And let's see. So here's some more tiny villages or tiny houses. These are in Denver. I think Casa, forgot what their name is, but they've done really unique outside designs. And these run anywhere from 200 to 400 square feet. These are on wheels. And the only difference is if you put them on a foundation, kind of like a mobile home, you know, when you put a mobile home and then you got it to the ground, then it's a Class C. And then then the county collects real estate taxes, property taxes. So anyway, these are some interesting ones. These are also affordable housing. This is a tiny house on wheels. You can see the wheels and again, this model, this one here, imagine that in the backyard. I mean, I wouldn't mind that in my backyard. It's not ugly. This is kind of cool too. Think of the houses that are already in Camp Arrowhead area.
Right.
Because they're all like wood based. So these are kind of cool things. This has a aluminum roof. So all the building materials even are, it's a smaller scale, you know, so it has a smaller amount of money. And people will say, oh, well, they cost more per square foot than a regular house. Yeah, but a mortgage, you can get $100,000 mortgage a lot easier than you can get a $400,000. So yeah, I have a argument for everything. And here's some more movable tinies. And I think it's really cool when they have the deck around there.
Okay.
And that's where you build community, you know, like have your grill and people sit. It's kind of like what the 50s were when you used to sit out on your porch and people used to walk on the sidewalk and, you know, have a conversation and you knew what a community was. This particular accessory dwelling unit, this is how they have the electric. They have an outlet, comes up here, and it's plugged into the main house. That's how this tiny unit, and I think this one's like 120 square feet. But again, they have solar on it, and they have solar here. So this one can be run off grid. This is as cute as can be. And you can see that there's the car right there. What's interesting is tiny houses on wheels. They're also called movable tiny houses. People have trouble moving them. So generally these people will go to a place and stay there for 2 or 3 years and then move. It's not like they're camping around and driving all over the country. People that I know that have driven around the country, they don't do well. They say they never do it again, and they stay in one place. And so surveys say that that's exactly the easier way to do that. But it allows them flexibility because what if, think about the fires in California. Right. And all this person would have had to do is put their, load up their truck, attach it, and they're off. So there's a lot of applications for accessory dwelling units that are tinies. I always like to do this because some people don't understand what the difference is between a mobile and a camper. And clearly when you see the difference side by side, it's not, there's a no-brainer there. Because these are actually built to building code standards, whereas these have a different building code, whether it's these or those, mobile home, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, or single wides, I guess, double wides. That's a different standard of building. Right. And I think that might be my last slide. Yep, that's it. So I have just a slide presentation on just communities and the focus of those communities. And because again, they're all over the place. One for seniors and vets and incarcerated being released. There's so much creativity out there on these communities. And you just got to do the numbers to make sure it is affordable to the tenant if you're going to rent, and it brings money back into the community. And that's really, people want to be giving. Right. And people don't want to talk about their struggles with housing. They want to go about their life and be healthy about it, and be healthy in their finances and their spiritual life and their home life, and have a happy family. Yeah. That's what it's about.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, and God bless you. And Bob, can I invite you to close us with a prayer? Would that be all right?
Sure.
Thank you, brother. And once again, we're going to be meeting. We're going to be having another issue or edition of this Hope Floats live stream, the second Sunday in October at 6:30. And so we invite you to join us then. And please think about joining us for the housing group that Reverend Bob Paulin is getting together. Not this coming Tuesday, but next Tuesday. Again, that's September 21st at 10 o'clock. So, Bob, thank you for closing us. And Dr. Williams, thank you so much for the passion that you bring to this, not a problem, but this wonderful opportunity to create community.
Yep, you said it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Now, dear God, we thank you for the blessings you have given us tonight on this very important topic that we all should care about. And please guide us as we contemplate the various opportunities put forth in front of us to take advantage of. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And good night. Yeah, God bless you.
Good night and God bless.
Thanks.
Recording stopped.